Al Vraspir. I'm going to invite Al Vraspir to come up. I know Al is a great servant here at Grace, but he's also very humble. And so he wouldn't like me to say this stuff I'm about to say, but guess what? I'm the pastor, and so I'm going to say what I want to say, right? Okay, so...
Except for rag in your mouth?
Yeah, no, you can't do that. So anyway, just a few things about Al. You know that on Holy Thursday, many of you know on Holy Thursday, we do a foot washing, and we choose people who are great servants of the church and who have served here at the church, usually for a long period of time, not just or not just one ministry, but usually several different ministries for a long period of time. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing where we wash someone's feet, but that's to honor them as a great servant of the church. Al Vraspir is the only person in the entire congregation who's ever had their feet washed twice. Okay, so that tells you a little bit. And there are so many things. I was trying to sit down and think of all the things that I know that Al has been involved in. He's been here 10 years longer than I have, and I would have run out of paper, seriously. I mean, Al is just one of those people that has a tremendous servant heart and has served Grace very, very well. So, Al, again, our first question here, we got these questions, we don't need to pay any attention to them, but the first question is, tell us about the ministries that you're giving your life to. Keep in mind that we only have a limited amount of time. Right. No, but tell us about some of the things that are really meaningful to you.
Well, I'll cover a couple of highlights, and I've been a member of the church for 46 years now, and Sally and I joined when we were 6 years old and had 3 children. So, but I've had a chance to really participate in so much, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. But one of the things we did a number of years ago is before this sanctuary was built, we expanded the sanctuary, which was back there in the fellowship hall. And we had quite a few items of furniture that needed to be built, and so we built those in my garage. And this included the altar here and the baptismal fountain. There was a bunch of things. Now, they were all done out of mahogany and stained dark, and that's not the popular color today, so everything has been refaced and modernized. But that was a fun project. I had a bunch of guys that came over and kind of took over my garage and built the furniture, so that was a fun experience. And I've been a member of the church council, a number of times. I've been president, I think, 3 times. And so I've kind of grown up with a lot of the things here, development of this congregation over the last 40 plus years. I love to sing in the choir. That's been something that I've done for pretty much the whole time that we've been, both Sally and I have sung in the choir. So we really enjoy that. And
I forgot one thing. Let me interject something here.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun. We were on a retreat, empty nester retreat one time, and it was around Christmas time. I think it was a Christmas party, and I didn't know this about Al, but Al sat down and played the piano for all of our Christmas songs. So not only does Al sing in the choir, he also plays the piano. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I used to accompany the kids' choir too.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
So that was kind of fun. Yeah. And of course, the other thing that we do, and I hate to talk about a boat and as part of ministry and all that, it just doesn't seem right to be out on the boat and that's serving. But we have used the boat. Pastor Marquardt came to me right after we bought the boat we had before the one we have now, and thought it would be really cool to have the 7th grade retreat out on the boat. And so we started that in 1983, and the following year, my daughter and Joel Marquardt, Pastor Marquardt's son, were 7th graders, and we said, let's try Blake Island, and we'll take them up to Blake Island. And so we did that. And so for the past 35 years, we've been taking our 7th graders to Blake Island, and that's been a very special thing. Sally and I have just enjoyed it. All the retreats that we do on the boat, we really enjoy. But that's one that's very special because the kids are beginning their journey. They're going through their 3 years of confirmation, and what a place to go to get away from the busyness of our lives here and to be at this beautiful island looking across the water at Seattle. It's just a marvelous thing, and so we have just enjoyed that immensely over the years of doing the retreat, and And of course, we do, I think we did 6 retreats this year, I don't know, something like that. And, but again, that's just a great joy that we have in participating in that. And we do fundraisers, donate to auctions, and we've raised quite a few $1,000s to help our kids or whoever is conducting the auction. So that's been a fun.
And so, Alan, you started out with the Woodhaven. I remember the Woodhaven, beautiful boat, old Chris Craft.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Well, the kids, the 7th grade class kept getting bigger, and we started doing more retreats. And I mean, I kind of got forced into having to buy a bigger boat, and it's really your fault that I had to do that. So I ran across this. It's been 20 years ago now that I found
that long? Wow.
found the Graceful Spirit, and that was not the name of it. The name of it was Mea Culpa, and that didn't seem appropriate for what I wanted to do.
Not for
so
Lutherans.
we had a naming contest here, and Doug Anderson turned around me in church one day and he said, "What about Graceful Spirit?" And I said, "Bingo, that's it." So it's been fun. We wanted grace in the name, and so that's how we named it.
You know, it's funny when I go to these conferences, you know, with pastors and everything, I always have to tell them about the church yacht. I tell them about the church yacht named the Graceful Spirit that we do retreats on. It's, of course, Al and Sally own the Graceful Spirit, but it's the church yacht.
Right.
It's just the church yacht. Al, yeah, and I think about all the the men's cruises and the women's retreats and the times you've used the boat, and then when we've had auctions here to raise money for special things, you've auctioned off like a dinner cruise,
right?
And people will bid those dinner cruises way up, and then people say, oh gosh, when they lose the bid, and so Al says, oh okay, I'll do another one for the same price, and it's just amazing, and people talk about those dinner cruises and how much fun they are and so forth. So it's been that's been a great ministry, Alan. We really do appreciate that. You talk, Al, a lot about the joys, and I love when you talk about serving. You always talk about what you get out of it, or people will call you, and so tell a little bit about some of the other projects that you've done and some of the other service things. We've got some pictures here too when you get into that.
Well, we started, of course, with the Faith in Action, which is 2008, and that was just a tremendous effort where we put basically 500 people out in the community, and there were so many projects. And
now that was a Sunday morning.
That was a Sunday morning.
Here.
Church down, just
everybody
like
was out in the community working on a Sunday morning. Nobody came here to worship.
And I had the best job. Now, I was kind of the project manager. I had to organize all the projects and everything else. So it was my job to go around from project to project. I didn't have to work that day. I just I talked on the phone and drove my car around. But it gave me an opportunity to see firsthand the incredible impact this was having on people. And one of my stories from that day was a family that we were helping, that the husband had lost his job, and I believe at the time neither of them were working, and they really got behind. It was a tough time, 2007, 2008, where the economy was down a little bit, and their house was in need of some significant, one of the doors got broken, and they didn't have money to fix it up. They defaulted on their power bill. They had their power turned off for 3 months. And so they were kind of tough, in a tough place in their lives. And so I went over to look at the house and looked at the things that needed to be done, trying to organize that. And I got concerned about how are we going to run our power tools? We didn't have power. And I was kind of fretting about that. I talked to a couple of people about it, and then I was on the phone that morning, and I was making some calls, seeing what we could do. Can we rent a generator somewhere? And the phone rang, and it was a member of Grace. He says, I want to pay the power bill. And that was just, if you think God doesn't work in our lives, have an experience like that. And it was right in the middle of that. And so a couple days later then, we had the power company had been contacted, and they were going to restore power. So I thought, well, I'll run over there and see how things are going. And I drove over and walked up to the house, and the TV was on. And of course, I knew that, of course, the power had been turned on. I talked to the lady there, and she says, yes, it's been on for about 2 hours now. And about then, a little girl came out of the house, and a mother turned to her and says, oh, this is the nice man that helped us get our power turned back on. And she says, oh, thank you, thank you. Today's my 7th birthday, and this is my best present ever. And I had a 7-year-old granddaughter at that time, and all I could think about, wow, what a contrast. You know, my granddaughter wanting power for her birthday, well, we can't even imagine that. And it's such a reminder of the situations that people get in for a variety of reasons, and it can happen to any of us here. And for us to be able to be there at that time and make such a difference, and that made a difference in my life as well as theirs. And so that was just a wonderful story that I remember from that day. And since then, we've actually had, if I've kept track of all of them, we've had 88 projects that we have done over the course of the last 10 years. And many of these have been yard cleanups. We've done a tremendous number of those, but we've also done wheelchair ramps. We've done decks and railings, and there's a couple stories there that I just wanted to share briefly. We had a woman that needed a wheelchair ramp. She had to go to the doctor a couple of times a week, and so she had to have whoever was transporting her to her doctor's appointment had to come to the house. They had to carry her down the concrete stairs, and she was absolutely terrified. And periodically, they were not able to handle her, and they had to call 911, so the 911 people would come out and they would get her down the stairs. And so we went in and we had to put in 40 feet of ramp in order to get her out of the house and around the corner, and there's a picture of it up there. That was the first trip that she took down the ramp, and you can see the smile on her face. And that by itself was, you couldn't have paid me enough to take the place of that. That was just wonderful to see the big smile, the difference that we were able to make in her life. And I think we had 8 or 10 people that came to help me on that project. It was a great project. Well, following that, a couple of years, time goes on, and I got a call from a person in Huntington Park. This was a man that had MS, and his caregiver had to get him out periodically from the house. And Huntington Park is an over 55 community at a short distance from here. And they're little clusters of cottages, and they share a common walkway and stairs that come down from, say, 3 or 4 units, which we had here. Well, there was a couple of problems. Huntington Park didn't allow wheelchair ramps. Ask me why. In a 55 community they don't, but that's what they said. So we had to kind of take that on and have some discussion. And they finally agreed to a wheelchair ramp under the condition that it be removed when he left. And they actually tried to get him to, just to move someplace else so he wouldn't have to do a wheelchair ramp. Well, this was a big challenge. Let's see. It's the other ramp picture. There it is. That's the one, isn't it? Yes, that's the ramp right there. Yeah. Okay. So the challenge was the stairway coming down. We couldn't build a ramp on that without tearing the stairway, and we certainly weren't going to do that. So there was a space between the stairway and the garage, and it was barely big enough to get a wheelchair ramp in, technically not quite enough to get it in to code, the full 3 feet. But I talked to Larry Picard down at the building department there, and he's been so good to work with. He looked at the plans and he said, I will approve your plans and I will be your inspector. And so we built the ramp, and as you can see, we built a nice ramp. It was attractive. We put in some really nice, so it's a coated plywood, and the steel handrails, and so it was attractive, and so it was okay. And the caregiver particularly was so relieved because she was so concerned about having to get him out and taking him down the stairs on a sheet of plywood. That was very dangerous. And so time went on, and they used it for a couple of years, and then Bob passed away. And I got a call from his son saying that we needed to remove the wheelchair ramp. He says, "No, I can do that. I just wondered if you wanted the material." And I said, "Well, yes, that handrail is pretty expensive." And so I took the ramp material and the handrail and stored them. And a short time later, I got a call from Sydney Smith, Dorothy Smith's daughter. And she says, and Dorothy was having some health issues. And she said that we can't get Mother out of the house anymore. Is there anything that you can do? And so I went over, and it was a fairly easy ramp, and we can show the next picture
There it is.
of the ramp that we built for her using this material. And it was just, it was wonderful that in the one tragedy of the man dying of MS, yet some good comes out of that with us being able to provide a wheelchair ramp for Dorothy. And Dorothy was here at the previous service, and I have been thanked so many times by Dorothy and Sydney for the work that we've done, and they've been so appreciative. But I have a little different perspective from her being so thankful. I've known Dorothy for over 40 years. The work that she has done in this congregation, she's been part of the dental van. She has been involved in the choir. She does so many things. And to me, my response is, Dorothy, this is a small token of our appreciation for all the work that you have done. And so that's the thing that I've felt good about. All of us are going to reach a point in our lives that we need help. And we were given the great commandment, you love God, you love your neighbor as yourself, and we try to understand what that is. Sometimes we get hung up on what all the laws are and what we're supposed to do under the law. Jesus said, love one another. And that has just come to light so much to me as I have looked at the help we've been able to give people, but also understanding it's part of the whole process of carrying out God's great commandment, and it really, I see the light when I see what we're able to do. So those are the stories.
Yeah, I was thinking, Al, as you told me that story, and I thought, think about this for a minute. So Al and crew, they build this wheelchair ramp for this guy. He really needs that. It really helps him out a whole lot. And then he dies. And so then Al goes and he gets all the material he used for that, stores it away. Then somebody else needs one, so he goes and uses the same material to build a ramp for Dorothy. And so not only is helping two people, but he's recycling the material, so he's caring for the environment. I mean, how cool is that? I just think that's awesome. I think that's absolutely amazing, Al. That's just so cool. Just using those resources but again, it is. Recycling and taking care of the environment too. Now, Al, tell us a little bit about the lady with the roof. Now, just a little bit about that story, because we got this lady I know you guys are trying to help. And
yeah, I'll try and make this brief because I know we are running short of time. But this is a lady that has suffered through some tough things in her life. And she doesn't have any money, but she lost 2 children in an automobile accident a few years ago. And emotionally, this has been a wreck for her. And she has a roof that needs replacing. The insurance company, because it's an older house, looked at it and said that the roof needed to be replaced or they'd cancel her insurance. And they actually did cancel her insurance. And we were able to intervene some in that. They got the insurance reissued. They reissued it. They put a new date on completion of the roof We're not going to quite make that, but I've got that worked out with the insurance company now, so we're going to be okay. So that's a project we're going to do for Sylvia. We're going to put a new roof on her house. We've never done this before. I need some roofers out here, guys. And it's kind of going beyond what we'd normally do, but we're going to do it.
But what I like about that story, so Al finds this lady who's really down on her luck, needs a lot of help, and the insurance company comes on and says, we're going to cancel your insurance unless you fix your roof. So Al does some stuff, they fix the roof up, make it presentable, so they say, okay, we'll give you a little more time. And they say, oh, we're still going to cancel your insurance. And so Al goes after the insurance company. I think that's absolutely marvelous. And so Al kind of got him to bend a little bit, and he says, this is not acceptable. You can't do this to this lady. And they finally agreed and said, okay. Well,
yeah, the last conversation I had was pleasant with them, and we've got a solution for it. So.
Yeah, but just to have an advocate, and I know we've done that, Al, in different areas too. From Grace, you've been, other people have been advocates for people that really need the help.
Yeah,
so.
And we have other things we're doing at the house. We've done some already, and we're going to continue. So that's one of the projects that we have.
Yeah,
a bunch of others too. But we'll tell you about that later.
Yeah. And of course, we got that Salt Day coming up where we're going to do this again. So you're going to want to be involved in that day. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. So Alan, I asked you, where does all this come from? Where does that big servant heart that you have, where does that come from? And you said a few things, but so tell us a little bit about that. Where does that come from for you?
I say part of it, a great deal of it comes from my family. I mean, I felt I grew up in a great family, great mom and a dad, and I know my dad was always involved in things. He was very involved in the veterans, and so I just kind of took a lesson from that. And in college, I had the experience of I belonged to Lutheran Student Association and had a chance to participate in some activities where we would get all the Lutheran Student Associations from around the area here, Oregon, Washington, so on and so forth. And so we had a weekend at the Millionaires Club in downtown Seattle that I worked on, and just got to experience that. And it's been a number of things like that, little things that have made a difference in my life.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, Al. Thanks for all you do. You're awesome. Thanks for watching. I hope this video can further the discussion of your relationship with Christ, either at home or maybe in the comments below.